Before we get into this one, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, comment below, and share this video everywhere. Because apparently sunlight is making some people in the Hill County Courthouse extremely uncomfortable. When I came to Hill County more than a year and a half ago, people told me, BZ, Hill County is one of the most corrupt counties between Fort Worth and Waco. And I didn't believe them. I really didn't. I thought, come on, how bad could it possibly be? Well, congratulations, Hill County. You have been working overtime to answer that question. It really started for me in September of 2025 when somebody reached out claiming there were serious problems surrounding the 24 sheriff's election and alleging that former Sheriff Rodney Watson had been cheated. So naturally, I started looking at requesting records. And then, what incredible timing, newly appointed County Judge Shane Brassell terminated Election Administrator Aaron Torres. That got my attention because when you start digging into the people involved around Hill County government, you begin seeing the same names, the same relationships, the same sheriff's office connections, the same political circles, and the same people somehow continuing to land in positions of influence. Shane Brassell himself came through the Hill County Sheriff's Office working as a deputy and in the jail before moving up through the ranks. And while Brassell was working there, so was Justin Motherspau. Why does that name matter? Because Hill County later opened the elections administrator position. According to the records I obtained, 22 people applied. You would think that meant Hill County was going to conduct a wide open professional search for the most qualified elections administrator they could find. That would be adorable because the records raised some very serious questions about how that selection process actually happened. There were applicants with relevant qualifications who never even got the opportunity to interview. Meanwhile, Ada Motherspau ultimately became elections administrator. And yes, Ada Motherspau is married to Hill County Deputy Justin Motherspau. I also obtained scoring documents that, in my opinion, deserve intense scrutiny. Those documents appear to show scores being altered or rewritten, with Ada receiving higher scoring while Assistant Elections Administrator Hunter Stepherson received lower scores. Maybe there's a perfectly innocent explanation there. Great. Then explain it. Because elections are supposed to be the one area where government officials go out of their way to eliminate even the appearance that somebody was handpicked. And the connections don't end there. Sheriff Hunter Barnes' campaign paperwork has identified Justin Motherspau and at one point Ada Motherspau in campaign treasurer roles. Then you have Ada's family connections, including Peggy Lidster, who ran for county treasurer, and Art Mann, who's been involved in economic development leadership. And Art Mann was publicly identified early on as supporting Hunter Barnes in the sheriff's race against Rodney Watson. So after hearing allegations about the handling of the 24 election, I'm looking at all these relationships thinking, you've got to be kidding me. Then February 2026 comes along. I'm conducting my own recount-related review, and who is helping with the election process? District Clerk Marshall Eubank. And that raised another question for me. Why is the district clerk becoming involved in matters surrounding the election administration? That was also around the time I met Shane Brassell. And I'll tell you right now, our relationship did not exactly begin with friendship bracelets and matching tattoos. I encountered attitude, hostility, and what I considered completely unprofessional behavior. And from there, I started attending commissioners' court meetings. That may have been their biggest mistake. Because once I started watching the meetings, requesting the records, reading the emails, following the relationships, and comparing what was being said publicly with what was happening behind the scenes, the doors started flying open. Then Commissioner Scotty Hawkins resigned from Precinct 3. Hill County eventually appointed Martin Dudick. Another appointment. Another person placed into public office without voters choosing him for that position. And Martin couldn't even get through his oath of office correctly the first time. But don't worry, apparently Hill County has plenty of patience when it comes to helping its preferred people get into government. Independent candidates, however, well, apparently that is where the paperwork suddenly becomes incredibly complicated. Because now I'm running for Hill County Commissioner Precinct 3 as an independent candidate. And suddenly we have a major dispute over whether I'm entitled to ballot access. Funny how that works. As of August 17, 2026, I submitted my application, my petition, and more signatures than the number I was required to obtain. And I'm prepared to fight any rejection through every legal avenue available to me, because if government officials misapply election law to keep a lawful candidate off the ballot, that isn't just some clerical disagreement. That raises a very serious question of ballot access and election interference, and the public deserves to see every document involved. Now look at another pattern. How many people appointed or elevated around this county seem to come out of the same network? Shane Brassell comes out of the sheriff's office. Justin Motherspau works for the sheriff's office. Then you have people moving from law enforcement into judicial positions. You have Brassell's longtime associate showing up in county positions. For example, John Crossan, who's had a business relationship with Brassell through construction work, was hired into the county as the OSSF Permits and Inspections Director. Then there are military connections. Trey Jaton and John Crossan served in the Army Reserve with Brassell. At some point, you have to ask, how many coincidences are we allowed before we're permitted to call it the good old boy club? Same circles, same friends, same agencies, same political connections, same courthouse, same appointments. And apparently the same people getting angry every time somebody starts requesting the paperwork. Then there is the justice system itself. I have serious concerns about what I've observed with bond amounts coming out of Hill County compared with surrounding jurisdictions. And when people move directly from law enforcement environments into judicial offices, the public has every right to question whether defendants are receiving truly independent consideration rather than a law enforcement first mindset. Judges aren't supposed to be an extension of the sheriff's office. They are supposed to be neutral. And when a county government becomes this interconnected, those questions absolutely need to be asked. And guess what? I'm asking them. That is why the attitude has changed. That is why doors start closing. That is why records suddenly become difficult. That is why people start talking. Because I'm not interested in joining their club. I'm interested in exposing it. And that includes the relationships surrounding Shane Brassell, Will Orr, the Orr family, the sheriff's office, the elections office, county appointments, and the Hill County Courthouse. I'm going to show you the paperwork. I'm going to show you the scoring sheets. I'm going to show you the campaign records. I'm going to show you the communications. I'm going to show you the timeline. And then you can decide whether what you're looking at is normal county government or whether Hill County has been operating like one giant political family reunion where everybody already knows who gets the next chair before the meeting even starts. So buckle up, because if they thought I was annoying when I was just requesting public records, they're really going to hate what happens when I start putting these records together to expose and getting criminal complaints filed with the Attorney General's office. I'm BZ with BZ WATCHDOG. Sunlight's the best disinfectant, and today we're turning on every damn light in the Hill County Courthouse. Watch this.
On the animal advisory board. Mr. Basil Zangari?
Point of order real quick, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Where's our legal counsel? Is it outside counsel today?
He's online.
He's online.
Yes,
Is that Mr. Holmes?
yes, sir.
Okay, because he needs to pay attention to this today. You go start my time, Your Honor.
I'm making sure he's online. Since he brought it up. Supposed to be. I believe he's on. Go ahead.
Okay, first I want to thank Commissioner Scotty Hawkins for stepping down based on the things I'm uncovering in Precinct 3. I believe stepping down is the right thing to do. Now, you guys talk about following the law. Well, the law's clear. Under Texas Local Government Code Section 87.042, when a vacancy occurs in the office of county commissioner, the county judge shall appoint a suitable resident of that precinct to fill the vacancy until the next general election. Judge Brassell, I've already thrown my name in that hat and expressed my interest. Whether you appoint me or not, I still win. If I'm appointed, I will protect Hill County and Precinct 3 to the full extent the law allows. I will represent the citizens, not the developers, not insiders, and not political friends. And if I'm not appointed, then the public will be watching closely to see whether this court chooses transparency, accountability, and the best interest of Precinct 3, or whether this court chooses more of the same politics that got us here. Now let's talk about this so-called data center moratorium waiver. Hill County passed the Green and Energy Data Center moratorium on May 12th, supposedly to protect citizens from unchecked development. But less than a month later, this court is now considering a moratorium waiver agreement with Abbott Land Holdings, that 3106 data center project. And from what I've reviewed, the waiver does not appear to say you may build one limited project under strict condition. It appears to move this developer forward on the entire property and protect them from the current moratorium and future moratoriums. So what exactly did Hill County accomplish? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like the county passed a moratorium that may have questionable enforceability, then immediately started carving out special exemptions for developers with enough money, lawyers, or leverage to pressure the county. That creates a serious legal problem. If Hill County grants Abbott Land Holdings a waiver but not denies the next developer, that next developer may ask, why did they get a waiver and we did not? That opens the county up to claims of unequal treatment, selective enforcement, due process issues, equal protection arguments, and potentially massive civil rights litigation. And let's not forget, this agenda lists RCM Hill versus Hill County and U3 on the federal lawsuit. Hill County is already in litigation over these issues. So why would this court create a roadmap for every other data center developer to sue the taxpayers? That is exactly why government should not play favorites. Either the moratorium applies fairly to everyone, or it's a political stunt that collapses the second a developer threatens you with litigation. And while citizens are being told this is about protecting roads, water, fire departments, drainage, public health, and rural quality of life, this waiver appears to put taxpayers at risk while giving the developer the benefit. I also want to point out the quality of these documents. If a document this important contains sloppy drafting errors, missing references, vague terms, or language copied from some template without proper review, then this court has no business rushing it. A document like this should shape the future of Hill County. Citizen deserves answers. Now, who negotiated this waiver? Who requested it? Was it discussed properly in open court? Was this publicly clearly notified? Was the public clearly notified? Where is the exact exhibit showing the affected property? Why does this developer get protection from future moratoriums? How many more waiver requests are coming? And most importantly, is Hill County protecting citizens or protecting developers from the very moratorium the county just passed? Now, I want to put this court on notice regarding today's agenda. The agenda states this meeting is open to the public, both in person and online. And the public may view, hear, and address the commissioner's court through the online option. I'm here in person because the Zoom link was broken. If the county publicly notices online access, then citizens should be able to rely on that access. A broken link access creates serious public notice and access concerns under the Texas Open Meetings Act. Now that this is a defect has been brought to your attention, I'm asking this court not to proceed as if nothing happened. Recess, fix it, repost, or reschedule if necessary. I also strongly suggest that the court move these meetings after 5 p.m. so working citizens can actually attend. Stop holding major decisions at times when the public is at work, and then actually surprised when people say they were shut out. Failure to follow the law can lead to complaints, litigation, potential criminal referrals under Penal Code 3902 and 3903, and removal actions under Chapter 87 for official misconduct. Hill County citizens are watching. Protect the people, not the developers. Follow the law, fix the agenda, and stop creating loopholes that cost taxpayers millions of dollars. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 1. Discussion or action on the resignation of Hill County Commissioner Precinct number 3, Scotty Hawkins. No. Mr. Hawkins has given me a resignation letter dated June 4th, 2026 to Hill County Commissioners Court. I, Scotty Hawkins, do hereby resign my position as Hill County Commissioner Precinct 3. Sincerely, Scotty Hawkins. Very concise. To the point. To the point. So,
I just want to say that the vote we made it a few weeks ago that Scotty and Martin, they were voted the way, I respect the way they voted. They were not only protecting the county, but I have always been, Scotty has been a good commissioner and a good friend. We've worked well together, coordinated things. I hate to see him go, but
I second that. After being here for 25 years and seeing this from the ground up, and I haven't been here for a lot of that. At the time that I have been here, you have been an integral part of this Commissioner's Court, and you will be sorely missed.
is that a second?
You made the first.
I didn't hear a motion yet. I would like to have some discussion about that position and how it moves forward. the way that Texas law is, or statute is that even though he resigns, he doesn't get to leave. He's considered a holdover, and we still have responsibilities to the county until an appointment is made. By more Texas statutes, the appointment is up to me to make. Interestingly enough, we are in an election at this time, which changes things slightly. We are past the primary, so we cannot have people put in for their names to be on the ballot. I've spoken with the Republican Party chair, and we've discussed the election code, in which it states that the precinct chairs of the precinct that commissioner is leaving will decide whose name will be put on the November ballot for election. So both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans, could put a name on that ballot for the citizens to decide. I am of the mind right now to not make an appointment until that is done by those precinct chairs. I don't think it would be very efficient for me to appoint someone and then a couple of months later that a different person would be coming into office. So we will, that process will start soon. I believe the Republican Party chair is tracking this meeting and that progress, and I will be reaching out to the Democratic Party chair as well to ensure that he understands that they have the opportunity to put someone on the ballot on their side for this November general election. I'll entertain a motion.
Judge Brassell, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, so the reason I don't want to leave it is because if you're going to reject it on the deadline based on what our discussion was last week, then under section 141.032 subsection E, you got to give me a statutory reason for rejection immediately. There is no delay in that letter. If you're going to accept it and review it for any kind of other technicalities, then you do have I believe it leaves it broadly to verify it for technicalities and review it for regular statutory procedures over the application of the petition.
Just like with any other document.
Yes, sir.
We're accepting the filing, just like in my email, just because I'm accepting the filing doesn't mean one way or the other. I'll review and then I'll get back to it.
Okay, so you're not rejecting it due to the deadline at this point?
I'm happy in the document. I think it'd be unfair to reject it.
Okay, and when would you let me know if you're going to decide to reject it on the deadline after I leave it with this good speed?
I should be able to take it up by tomorrow for sure.
Okay, I will leave it with her then. I already got copies of it, and I'll leave it with her.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Judge.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thanks.
Well, there you have it, watchdogs. You just watched it with your own eyes. You heard me stand in front of the Hill County Commissioner's Court and tell County Judge Shane Brassell that I was throwing my name in the hat for the Precinct 3 position. And what happened immediately afterward? Did Judge Brassell say, Basil, if you intend to run as an independent, there's a separate process you need to follow? No. Did he say, be careful because there may be a deadline that applies to an independent candidate? Nope. Did the man who is ultimately the filing authority for an independent county candidate give me accurate information about the independent candidate process? Apparently not. Instead, you heard Shane Brassell publicly announce that we were already past the primary and, quote unquote, we cannot have people put in their names to be on the ballot. Then he explained that the Republican precinct chairs would select somebody for the Republican side and the Democrats could select somebody for their side. Well, gee, Judge, there seems to be one tiny little problem with that explanation. I'm not a Republican candidate. I'm not a Democrat candidate. I'm an independent. And that distinction becomes pretty damn important when the independent candidate is relying upon information coming from the very county judge who later turns around and tells him, sorry, Basil, you missed the deadline. Oh, really? That is where this gets interesting. Because I have been criticizing Shane Brassell for a while. I've been requesting his records. I've been questioning what happens inside his commissioner's court. I've been talking about appointments, I've been talking about the sheriff's office connections. I've been talking about the elections administrator selection process. I've been talking about the data center deals. I've been threatening complaints, litigation, and Chapter 87 removal proceedings when I believe officials violate the law. And from practically the first couple of times Shane Brassell and I interacted, in my opinion, the attitude was obvious. Now, does that automatically prove retaliation? No. And that's exactly why government retaliation cases can become very difficult. Nobody walks into court carrying a memo that says, "Dear Diary, today I retaliated against Basil because he irritated me." Intent usually has to be examined through the timeline, the communications, the inconsistent treatment, the statements and the surrounding circumstances, and fortunately for me, I keep receipts. Emails, videos, commissioner court recordings, applications, petitions, timestamps, election records, and Shane Brassell's own words. That's the beautiful thing about public officials talking on camera. You don't have to remember what they said. You just press play. Then we get to August 17, 2026. I walked into Hill County with my independent candidate application and my petition containing the signatures I had worked hard to collect. I didn't hide anything. I didn't sneak anything through the back door. I put the paperwork directly into the process and specifically asked whether Brassell was rejecting it because of this supposed deadline. And you heard what happened. Instead of immediately rejecting it right there, the paperwork was left for review. Then comes the next day. Hill County Commissioner's Court moves forward with ordering the November election while my ballot access dispute is sitting right there. And now I'm being told, oops, too late. You can't make this shit up. So here's the argument that is now going to be put where it belongs. In front of lawyers, and if necessary, a judge. If the filing authority gave an independent candidate materially incorrect information about his ability to seek the office, and that candidate relied upon those representations before learning that an independent route actually existed, then the courts can determine what legal consequences to follow. That's no longer just Basil standing at the podium arguing with Shane Brassell. I've retained legal counsel, and not somebody I found at the courthouse vending machine. I have retained election law attorney Trey Trainer with Dillon Law Group. The engagement agreement specifically contemplates legal action challenging Brassell's refusal to certify my independent candidacy for Hill County Commissioner Precinct 3 and includes potential mandamus proceedings, injunctive or emergency relief, Texas election litigation, hearings, motions, appellate proceedings, and negotiations with governmental authorities. So Shane, remember all those times I stood at the podium warning you that eventually somebody besides me was going to start reading these records? The time has arrived. The time is now. And I know the standard response from government, we can't comment on pending litigation. Of course you can't. Isn't that convenient? They'll talk all day long when they control the microphone, but somehow everybody develops a sudden allergy to English when a lawyer walks into the room. And let's make something else crystal clear. I'm also preparing a Chapter 87 removal petition alleging official misconduct based upon matters I believe warrant judicial review. That does not mean a court has already found Shane Brassell guilty of misconduct. It means I'm going to put the evidence together, file the allegations through the lawful process, and ask the judicial system to examine them. Because that's how accountability is supposed to work. So the taxpayers of Hill County should start asking a very simple question. Why does this keep ending up in court? Why are taxpayers potentially paying lawyers to defend disputes that could have been avoided by transparent government, accurate information, and officials simply following the law? Hill County was already dragged into major litigation once in 2026, and now we're preparing for another courtroom battle, this time involving something as fundamental as whether a candidate gets access to the ballot. That's not my money paying the county's lawyers. That's your tax money paying. Your property taxes, your county budget, your government. So Judge Brassell, you wanted to tell everybody from that chair how the election process supposedly worked. Now we're going to have attorneys and potentially a judge examine exactly what you said, exactly what you wrote, exactly when you said it, what information I was given when I learned the independent process was available. when I gathered my signatures, when I tendered my application, and why Hill County is now claiming I should be kept off the ballot. Those receipts are coming with me. So no, Shane, this isn't another 3-minute public comment period where you can sit there, wait for the timer to expire, and move to the next agenda item. Court doesn't work like Commissioner's Court. There's a record, there's evidence, there are briefs, there are statutes, there are sworn arguments, and there are judges above the Hill County judge. So consider yourself officially put on notice, buddy. Counsel has been retained, the documents are being reviewed, emergency ballot access remedies are on the table. And while that process moves forward, I'm going to continue doing exactly what apparently makes this courthouse so uncomfortable. Requesting records, asking questions, showing the documents, playing the videos, and letting the citizens see exactly how their government operates. Because here's the part the good old boy club still doesn't seem to understand. You don't beat criticism by trying to shut the critic out. You just give them a bigger story. So Judge Brassell, tell the taxpayers why Hill County may be headed back into court. Tell them why lawyers are now having to examine statements you made about ballot access. And while you're explaining that, I'll be finishing the Chapter 87 packet. Ladies and gentlemen, if you appreciate independent journalism that actually shows you the records instead of repeating courthouse talking points, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop your comment below, and share this video everywhere. Send it across Hill County. Send it across Texas. Because government accountability doesn't happen when everybody stays quiet. It happens when people start watching. And as I always say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. I'm BZ with BZ WATCHDOG News Network. And Shane, I'll see you in the paperwork and in the court.
Tyranny, corruption, extortion.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant. BZ WATCHDOG News Network.